They're not like you. They do become animals, and it is their fault. And that's a really of a dad of daughters. It is the biggest heart sink, and by the time they get teenagers, they already know it. Mm-hmm. But you talk about loss of innocence. Like, God, can you imagine? You got to tell your 9-year-old? Yeah. It's not just that guys are pigs. Yeah. They're animals. No, this reckoning. Keep going. I'm sorry.
No, what's really interesting about this is the majority of girls. In this particular case, this article pretty much talks about all the underage girls. At the time, they really didn't believe what they did was wrong. They were with a rock star. They told people about it. Yep. They took pride in the fact that they slept with Elvis Presley or Jerry Lee Lewis or Bill Wyman. And they were a groupie. Yep. In one case, and there's one girl in here who slept with everybody, including celebrities. Now she's coming out, and as she's gotten older, she's changed her views on exactly what happened. She realized that she was a piece of meat, that she was used and abused. Right. And so that's why, and again, 56 years later, maybe that's why this woman did it on the last day. I don't know. But maybe she's finally realizing as an older person, hey, this has affected my life, and I didn't like it. Elvis Presley, his first girlfriend was Dixie Locke, and you're going to hear that name a lot in this article. She was 15. He was 24 at the time. He was dating Hollywood starlet Anita Wood, Elvis Presley was, to date his future wife, Priscilla Ballou, who was then 14 at the time. Jeez. So the two cohabitated 2 years later, and of course, with the blessing of her parents. So Elvis Presley was certainly, Jerry Lee Lewis, we know.
Yeah. He married his cousin, right?
Unlikely to be thrilled at the time, but in 1957, his bride was 13, some 9 years younger than the groom. The union was discovered almost by accident, but again, her parents gave him the blessing to marry her at the age of 13.
What the hell were they thinking?
David Bowie, Laurie Maddox has repeatedly claimed that she lost her virginity to the late megastar at the age of 14. He was 22 at the time. According now to the 62-year-old, Bowie pursued her, but initially rejected him. However, despite her young age, she maintains they had sex a few months later when she ended up in his hotel room. This led to an alleged threesome with another underage girl, a Sable Starr, in an interview with a Thrillist in 2015. Maddox said she had no regrets about the early encounter. However, she was less genuine when quoted in a 2018 article in The Guardian when the MeToo movement was at its peak. She said, "I don't think underage girls should sleep with guys. I wouldn't want this for anybody's daughter. My perspective is changing as I get older and more cynical about what's going on."
Sure.
And then, of course, when Jimmy Page was 28 at the time, he also slept with Laurie Maddox, who was 14. The same teenage who allegedly lost her virginity.
How'd she get around? Like, just physically, how'd she get around?
I don't know if rockers talk to each other. I don't know because
there was no text messaging.
Yeah, but I mean, but she slept with a lot of different individuals and told people about it. According to Maddox, she was driven to a hotel. She was pulled into one of the rooms where Page was waiting. "I told you I'm going to have you," she claims he told her. The musician's alleged control nature continued. Maddox later said Page would often keep her locked in a room with security guards watching her.
Like that. Okay, see, again, there's the line. Yeah. Right? I mean, there was a lot of lines that was crossed. Mm-hmm. There were a lot of lines crossed as you were talking. Yeah. And I'm cataloging them.
And again, a 14-year-old being around a mega rock star, you probably think it's normal. Well, he loves me so much, or he's so crazy about me, or the only way I can continue this. I know it's wrong. No. But the only way to continue this
conversation. See where the blame goes?
Oh, yeah.
See, this is where the blame goes.
Oh, I know. I know exactly what you're saying.
I mean, that's the thing. It's hard. So there's two pieces on the Jimmy Page. First of all, if you locked her in the room with security guards, okay, now that's child entrapment. That's kidnapping. Yeah.
Well, at the time, he's like, "I'm going to protect you." There's
always locking. Somebody else will hurt her.
Well, sure. I'm gonna keep you here so we can keep you away from the crowds. I'll see you after the show. You stay here while I do my. I'm sure.
It's more like
no. But in hindsight, she looked back. She goes, "Oh my God, he locked me up, right?" And she believed every bit of it. She was 14. He's 28.
Yeah.
I mean, why the hell would?
See, this is the thing. Listen. This is the thing. Here's the thing. I try to be kind. I am a heterosexual male.
Yeah.
And I try to be kind to my gender. But here's the piece where it always crosses the line. I don't care if you're Jimmy Page. I don't care if you're David Bowie. This is why there's going to be a reckoning. I don't care if you're 28 years old.
Yeah.
She's 14.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care. At 28 years old, whether it was you, your manager, your security person, but you would hope you should have gone, okay, this is not a good idea.
Yeah.
Like, this is the part where there's no, you can't say it was the time, because it's the same thing. If let's just say she was 20, 21, did exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
I'd go, okay. I mean, it's not good judgment, but whatever. They're 14 years old. You have to be the one to say, particularly as a rock star, you can have everybody.
Yeah.
And this is the thing that's really interesting to me about celebrities. We talked about this Cuba Gooding Jr. We talked about this, about sort of the whole power thing. Celebrities of all sorts, we all make dumbass moves. And we tend to get more emboldened the more power we have and the more we see that kind of whatever we do, there doesn't seem to be negative consequences. That's how we get off the rails all the time. So we get to this point where we are literally out of our minds. Like, and I'm not saying drug induced. If you are 28 years old, whether you are a rock star, a basketball or a athlete, or an executive, somewhere in your moral fiber, there should be a siren that says, 14-year-old, not a good idea.
Yeah.
And the other thing that's crazy, and this is where I always say this, the same thing, all the people around them. You know, and everybody says the same thing. You know, I can't tell Jimmy Page no.
Yeah.
I'll lose my job.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is why she's saying, go on, because I think there's going to be a reckoning. And I think our show should be the one where they all come clean, the ones who are not dead.
Well, they're not going to come clean. They're not going to come on and say, I did this back in 1972 or I did this in 1970. It's never going to happen.
It'd be great. It'd be great for today.
But if they're going to be called out for it, again, all these stories are known.
Yes. Right.
I mean, and not only because they slept with them and de-virginized them, but because they had relationships with them.
De-virginized.
Bill Wyman, who's fixing to go back on the road with the Rolling Stones, it caused a fervor in the UK in the early 1980s when he first met a 13-year-old Mandy Smith in a London nightclub. Why the hell was she in a nightclub? The ensuing relationship, approved by Smith's parents, was played out in the front page of the nation's newspaper. He had a 34-year-old age gap. He was 47 at the time.
And she was 13?
13.
That's so sick.
This is in the 80s. This ain't that long ago, brother.
That's sick. And her parents approved.
Yeah. Well, he's Bill Wyman.
But it doesn't matter, dude. That's freaking
sick. This is the same parents
that
allowed their boys to go to the Neverland Ranch.
No,
15
it's
years
not.
Well, sure it is. But what I'm saying is, it's a celebrity.
But they approved of what?
They approved of a relationship. He was 47. She was 13. She was dubbed the original wild child. Smith claimed she had sex with Wyman when she was 14. The pair married in 1989 when she was 18.
Oh, that's good.
He was 51. They separated after 2 years and divorced 2 years later. In a 2010 interview with the Daily Mail, Smith, then 40, expressed regret about the past. You can never get that part of your life, your childhood, back. I never could, and I would have never done it today. If it happened today, Wyman would absolutely be vilified by the press. He'd be in jail, she said. And then, of course, the R. Kelly story, which I don't need to get into because it's so recent.
We got a lot in between.
Yeah.
Sammy.
No, and
all of
again,
all of everybody that we play on here.
The question to most of us who have never been rich and famous and rock and roll stars is, first of all, if you're drunk, why would you ever get behind the wheel of a car? Because you can afford to pay anybody to drive you around. Again, we do stupid stuff. And again, Cuba Gooding Jr. copping feels of women's breast in bars that he doesn't know. You're Cuba Gooding Jr. You could probably get any woman you wanted anyway. So why would you be going after innocent, unsuspecting women, even if they're throwing themselves at you? Why would you be doing that situation? I say understand. I'm not condoning anything.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
I do.
When you and I've been backstage
you have, and I
a
haven't.
million times. And again, I bring that Def Leppard story because I could not believe what I was seeing. And I'm not going to get into the details, but I saw women that I knew weren't like that. And I knew that something crazy was happening. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, you're a school teacher, a reputable school teacher, and she's like, yeah, but it's It's Joe Elliott. And I'm like, okay. And maybe it's because I was around it so much and I see them as they put their pants on the same way I put my pants on, but they have a profession where they're rock stars and they're famous. And again, I would say when you talk about power, I don't think there's anything higher than a rock star.
No.
Presidents, not even close.
Yeah, no.
Celebrities, not even close.
No.
I mean, there was a show called Rockstar, right? If you're a rock star, a real rock star, you have more power than anything. Not only because you're a rock star, because you play a musical instrument and you've got the adoration of thousands and millions of fans that would do anything. I have been backstage so many times where I've seen underage girls too. I haven't seen anything happen with underage girls, but literally throwing everything they got at these rock stars to be with them.
Interesting.
18, 19, 20-year-olds. I've seen it. I've seen it, and it's
there, when you're standing there. See, I think this is really interesting from the Tony Curry perspective.
And again, this is 20 years ago. Okay, so I was a little different too. I was in my 30s.
So what were you doing? Like, what I mean is, like, I just envision you watching this thing unfold. Were you going like, "Hey, you know who I am"?
Some jocks, yeah. I mean, I'm looking for scraps, right? I'm the vulture.
I know. Is there anything left? I know, but you didn't get a chance to know. Look about me.
And in a much different level, I've seen women throw their panties at Barry Manilow.
Yeah.
I've seen 52, 53-year-old women, and it's funny, but it's not funny, saying I would do anything to be with him.
He's gay.
And this was 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And he knew he was gay. So, I mean, when you get around celebrities, people just get dumb as a box of shit.
Yeah,
I mean, it's amazing. And I've seen people that are so set and so secure in who they are and so right, and they're successful, they're married, they have kids, everything is great, and they get around a rock star, and they are a big box of dumb I mean, they just absolutely fall apart.
Yep.
I've seen it with news directors, with presidents who they hated, that absolutely fell apart. They were putty in their hand. It's amazing what power does when you realize at a different level. I see people with Nick Saban all the time.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Look at the
I mean, they are just, they just totally
forget. Look at the press conferences.
They totally forget who they are, and they totally forget what they're all about. They forget about the morality, their ethics. They forget about everything, because I've seen people go backstage. Can you get me backstage? I've had a million people, can you get me backstage? And I get back, and you can tell if they said, take your clothes off, they'd do it right now.
Right.
With their husband standing there. Right. I'm in. I told you I was on David Lee Roth's tour bus.
Yes.
And this was after Van Halen.
Yes.
This is where he could still wear suspenders and he had the hairy chest. The bus was rocking. And I'm sitting out there looking at these women, and I'm going, get a hold of yourself, man. Have some self-respect for yourself. And I knew some of these people, and I could not believe what I was seeing. It's just, and listen, if I got around Julie Andrews, I can't say I wouldn't do the same thing.
I know.
But I've interviewed enough people that I understand that they're people just like we are. And then when you have conversations with them afterwards, you realize they just were super blessed with a gift that they do something that we all wish we could do and we can't.
But do you think? I told you I was watching that Ali Wong,
and I can see the other side of it.
What?
I can see the rock star saying she threw herself at me.
Yeah.
She wanted to be with me.
Right.
And again, let's just separate these two things. Yeah. Anything under the age of 18 is disgusting.
But so listen.
Particularly at 12 and 13, because you can tell 12.
So you talk about the women were throwing. I think this is interesting. I was watching the Ali Wong comedy last night, which is, oh my God. Anyway, so you see these women throwing themselves at this rock star, and they are of age.
Yeah.
And we talk about they would do anything. They would do anything to be with them. In many ways, it's who's got power over who. I think this is super interesting. So in many ways, they're doing this to say, I had him.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, right, the rock star's like, well, I had her and I had her. Not really.
You're
a piece of meat.
Yeah.
You're the trophy. You're the piece of meat that they're going after. They don't see you as, they don't respect you.
No.
They don't see, and I think that's really interesting, because we sort of paint that picture as they're starstruck, they don't know what they're doing. And in some cases that is true. In other cases, it's like, I'm going to go have sex with Joe Elliott.
Yeah.
So that I can tell people that I laid Joe Elliott.
Oh, and you know they do. You know
and
they
it's
will.
Got nothing to
it's
do.
never a
they
secret.
Don't respect him.
Yeah. It's not a secret. No.
So that's really interesting for guys. Like, what does that say? Because, you think about it. If you're a rock star, it supposedly pumps up your ego, right? Look, I can have any woman. But do you realize that all you are at your core for all these women is a piece of meat? You're nothing.
And if you're okay with that,
no, see, I think
for sake of the conquest, who
conquest which way?
But I don't think they know it. But at the time it's happening, they're insane.
Yes, right.
There's insanity there. There's true insanity there. They don't even. Everything's out the window because you're with this person, and I'll tell you a quick story. We had 107.7 The X, which was an alternative radio station down the hallway. We could always tell when they had bands coming in because the hallway smelled, but alternative bands always stunk. It was weird. You could smell them out in the parking lot. It was strange. There was an intern who was a very attractive girl, a young girl. She was probably 18 or 19. She was of age. And she had this huge crush on the lead singer of this particular band. I'm not going to mention the band. You've heard them on the radio before. We actually play a song from them on KCAST Radio. Okay. Get the KCAST Radio app, by the way, you'll hear it.
Download it today, yes.
And she was like, I need to be in the studio when the band plays. I've got to see the band. I got to see the band. I got to see the band. And I mean, she was like crazy, and she was I think she was a senior in high school, again, of age. And I was like, okay, blah, 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 blah. This was when Dave Rossi was there and all these guys, Beaner and Ken. And so, sure enough, she gets in there and you could tell she's in tears, and he's playing a song and the band's in there, blah, 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 blah. Well, about 6 days later, she ain't come back to work. She's an intern. And we're like, where is so-and-so? And someone said, well, I heard she hooked up with one of the guys in the band. And we don't know. And it was kind of like, this is early 90s. Well, she comes in, and she was a different person. She was a totally different person, outgoing, just totally different person. And to come to find out that she slept with the singer, that she was all goo-goo gaga and got a venereal disease. And, man, I mean, you want to see someone smack to attention. Like, I mean, all of a sudden, what the hell am I doing? I can't believe, and then come to find out she was also a virgin at the time. And you want to talk about a traumatic experience.
Oh, yeah.
She totally lost it. Totally lost it. Insane. Crazy. I got to be with this guy. I can't believe he's picking me. I can't, and she was overboard. We're going to have a relationship. I'm going to be on the road with these guys. He left her like a piece of dirt and then gave her a venereal disease on top of it, knowing that he probably slept with the woman at every single radio station he went to. And so I've seen it firsthand, and it was like, and it really was, and it was a learning experience. It's easy to learning experience because I'm doubting she probably slept with any other rock and rollers at that point in time. And she was a fine, she was a get, she was really pretty. But I mean, I felt so bad for her because I knew that she was, then was not the time to sit there and say, what were you thinking?
Right, of course not.
You knew that you were just another piece of meat. Why did you think that? Because she went into it thinking, oh my gosh, he wants to be with me. I must be something special. And it was heart-wrenching. It was heart-wrenching to see. So
Do we have anybody who's real good people in music?
Yeah, we got a lot of good people in music.
I mean, without...
Well, sure. I mean, Damon Johnson's a good guy. I mean, he's a rock star. Taylor Hicks is another guy that I think has done extremely well. I don't know
we don't
if he has any closets or any, but I mean, it's
power. It's power, and it is a lack. It's power, it's condonement, and it's a lack of human respect. Like, just think about it. And you can take this, man. You can dial this back. I always try to do this. You can dial this back. You got to dial it back to reality because that's not the world we live in, right? But think about the guy that you went to high school with who got all the girls.
Yep.
They thought he was awesome.
Yeah.
They just thought.
Now they're on Facebook.
Right.
They're working at Express Oil Change.
Right, and they don't have hair like me. But I mean, you think about it, and they're throwing themselves at this person.
Yeah.
And this guy is 16, 17, 18 years old. And maybe he's sort of been that way, suave his whole life. He came out of the womb that way and his dad was that way or something like that. But maybe not. Maybe, I don't know, maybe he's good at a sport or maybe he's something. And all of a sudden it clicks in his brain at this adolescent age, this is great. I don't have to do a damn thing. I can have, and again, adolescence, it's all about intimacy and sex for a lot of adolescents. It's hormonally about that. I'm not talking about rape or not.
They're the rock stars of their time.
That's exactly. And it happens and it happens and it happens. And it happens until somebody, something calls them out, or it stops, or they get rejected, or they lose their mojo, or whatever. And what you hope is, and those are the moments where they mature. You hope that nothing bad had happened up to that time. Think about just growing up as an adolescent. Your first girlfriend, your first boyfriend, it's amazing. You think it's fantastic. And then they break up with you.
Yeah.
So you go from up here to down there. Can you imagine the rock stars if nobody ever wanted to sleep with them again? Right? Can you imagine how would it affect their ability to perform if no one wanted to sleep with them? Think about all the strife within the band. I know you told me what the song Rosie really means, but the whole idea of going home with the guitarist and he's the bass player. How much strife is there in bands because they want the lead singer and they don't want you, the bassist?
Oh, no. Yeah. Well, at that point, if you're with the band, you're with the band.
Yeah, but do you get it? No matter what?
Yeah, because there's always a guy in the band that is willing to take the stragglers.
Yeah, but at some point are the stragglers going, look,
I've seen situations where if I wait till he's done with her, can I be next?
Well, then they say, no, you can't be with him.
No, I'm here. I'm okay.
That's exactly.
I'm here with him.
That's exactly.
Okay, well,
what I'm
you're
saying.
Third in line. Okay, well,
How
I'll
does
wait.
it work in bands? We should ask Damon this. Is it the lead
There's a pecking order.
What is it? Lead singer?
It depends on the lead singer is usually right there at the top, and the lead guitarist.
Okay.
The rhythm guy's usually in the background a little bit, and the drummer, no one cares about the drummer.
No one cares about the drummer.
No, but I mean, drummers do well.
Tommy Lee.
They're still doing well.
But Tommy Lee's like...
Tommy Lee was a different
Don
animal.
Henley?
He played, yeah, well, Don Lee or
Don Henley was a drummer and lead
Don
singer.
Henley and a writer.
Oh, see, if you're a writer, it works better too, right?
Yeah, I wrote the songs. I think singing probably has the most play in it. If you're a singer and you're a hell of a guitar player, you're getting the girl. I know we had to go this way, but talk about one of our great clients real quick, and then I want to talk about the Taliban in Afghanistan.
Okay, sure.
Someone reached out to me and said, "What's your take on this Afghanistan thing?" I don't get a take on it.
Okay, I'm going to tell you about Woodhouse Day Spa because, look, in the scheme of things, if we just would all go to Woodhouse Day Spa, we would all do so much better. My daughter actually called me up from Charleston, and she's like, can I go down here to one of the Woodhouse Day Spas down here? I said, yeah, sure, if you pay for it yourself. And then she asked me for Venmo requests. Woodhouse Day Spa is one of our sponsors. We've got one up here in Birmingham. They're located up at the Summit, 905-7676. Imagine this. Imagine going to a mall or a outdoor shopping venue, and you walk in the door, and instead of walking in the door and being a place where you get manicures, pedicures, massages, you've literally walked into a resort. You've crossed this threshold into a resort. That's what Woodhouse Day Spa is. And they try to make it that way so that when you go there, you're getting the finest treatments and you have the finest experience. Call them today, 905-7676. Or, and I tell people this all the time, go immediately to their webpage because you can see the pictures. It's birmingham.woodhousespas.com, birmingham.woodhousespas.com.
Someone tweeted me last night, "What's your take on the Afghanistan thing?" I've got a brother who was actually in the service. He didn't serve over there, but what are your thoughts on 20 years of basically nothingness? And I've heard a lot of congressmen and political figures and chiefs of staff coming out and saying, listen, nothing was done in vain, that their 20 years of service was much appreciated, but basically we're right back at where we were 20 years ago. And I truly believe that. And I'll just say this. I don't believe anything in life is done in vain. Okay? I think that when you're doing something and you believe in what you're doing and you're doing it to the best of your abilities, I believe there's always some equity in those actions, regardless of what it is. Whatever it is, there's something in it because we're all connected by God and we're all connected with the people we work with and what we do business with. And so I'm always one of those guys where I always think to myself, okay, what if we hadn't been there the last 20 years? Where would we be? Do we hold something at bay? Have things changed politically, terrorism-wise, over the last 20 years? What would have happened if we had never gone to Afghanistan? So I'm not going to look at that and say it was a waste because I think that belittles everything that our servicemen and women have done over the last 20 years to make it safe. And I do believe that the Afghan people prospered for a long period of time, particularly females, because we had U.S. troops on the ground over there. So I'm going to say that. I do think it's interesting that Twitter came out yesterday and is not shutting down the Taliban Twitter account. Now, the question is, because as long as they obey the platforms, they can continue to tweet out their propaganda. Unlike former President Donald Trump, who is not allowed to be on Twitter, the voices of the reconstituted Taliban regime in Afghanistan can apparently tweet to their heart's content. In a statement obtained by Mediate Tuesday, Twitter ducked the question of whether representatives of the Islamic fundamentalist government for getting their message out to 280 characters at a time, saying only that it would continue to proactively enforce its rules outlawing the glorification of violence, platform manipulation, and spam. Twitter's top priority is keeping people safe, and we remain vigilant as long as and I guess I'm not even going to try to say his name, one of the Taliban spokesmen has 310,000 followers. His most recent tweet as of Tuesday afternoon promoted a press conference by Taliban leaders and drew hundreds of responses, including, first of all, I welcome you and then congratulate you on the complete liberation of Afghanistan. Josh,
I would not want to be. Oh, thank God I don't work at Twitter.
Well,
or Facebook or any of those places. I know. You know, I mean, like this goes back to the same thing. I think about Zuckerberg and the people who invented this, and they were young, and they're like, and they were, I want to say they were naive or idealistic is right. We're gonna create a platform for communication.
Mm-hmm.
I come from what a great idea. I mean, hell, all the free speech people, free speech.
Yeah,
and it starts off like great.
Yeah.
This is great. Oh, look at that. That's a little spicy. Okay. Well,
it's only a matter of time. Anything of any success is going to have issues, right?
That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't even know what to say. I mean, Donald Trump was banned. I don't know exactly what he violated. And so it all becomes, God, can you imagine the lawyers? I'm just thinking the lawyers. That's the first thing I think about, the lawyers for Twitter. You know that they're combing through exactly what it says, and if the Taliban is obeying, is it an ulterior motive, or is it that they're saying, look, they're obeying the letter of the law? I'm not a sponsor of it.
And social media obviously is the most impressive platform you can be on for propaganda standpoint. Propaganda.
You don't need to be. That's right. You don't care. It doesn't matter about TV. It doesn't matter.
Well,
about
there are some people that aren't too happy with Twitter.
Of course not. I can understand that. I mean, I do think, I think in a situation like this, Twitter's got to come out with probably more than that statement. Because the question is, the obvious question is, will you ban Donald Trump and you didn't ban the Taliban? Explain to us why. And this is where I think, and I've never been the head of a giant corporation, but I think that's a really good, and you know my thoughts about Donald Trump and my thoughts about the Taliban. But I think that's a really great question that Twitter needs to be able to answer. You ban Donald Trump, one of the presidents. You're not banning the Taliban. Just tell us why. This is like,
they're taking the straight line approach. Twitter does not endorse any type of violence, glorification of blah, 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 blah. The first time there's a beheading, you're off. Okay. and we know that's happening. No. But we haven't seen it on our platform yet. This is so bullshit. This is so looking the other way. You haven't done anything wrong, so you're
that's
good.
What I'm saying. So why they do for Donald Trump?
Well,
do you think it's politically motivated? I mean, I'm just saying. Do you think that Twitter? Look, Twitter's about making money.
I want to paraphrase here, but I think he incited, at least according to the insurrection, violence.
So that's why.
And so when they do that and false claims of the election. So
that was it was clear cut enough, and now the Taliban, it's not what you stand for, it's what you're tweeting.
Yeah,
I mean that's like you said.
You can say one thing and do something else,
right? One beheading and you're
true.
Off.
And I think that's the most confusing thing. It's absolutely heart-wrenching to see what's going on over there right now. I know we screwed it up, and I don't know if we could have done it any differently. I think we probably could have.
I do like.
It's not our country, and it's not our country to run. But I do think we have to look at the backside of it. Okay, if we don't take care of business over here, how is it going to affect us down the road?
Right.
And so that's the big question right now, because we got domestic terrorism. We got a bigger issue here in the United States outside Afghanistan, Pakistan. Yeah, it's.
So what's your position on it?
Well, the part of me is I'm all about freedom and freedom of speech. And there's ramifications for that. We're seeing that with everything from COVID to politics to everything else. But, there's some people that will go to their grave saying, man, that's what made this country great. And we cannot refute that, and we cannot stop people from expressing themselves, regardless of what that is. Now, if they're doing something that is against the law, then certainly there are ramifications for that. But just an expression of speech. And so I understand that. So I made this country great, but this is not what our forefathers were writing in the Constitution.
No, but you,
so it's one of those. I'm kind of like, eesh, there's no reason why the Taliban should have. Now they're going to get on social media. They're going to find their insurgents. They're going to get their people to join, and they're going to.
That's what you're talking. I thought your position I thought your friends wanted a position on pulling out versus not pulling out.
No, I'm just like it. It makes absolutely no sense to give the Taliban anything that they need to be living there right now, because you got part of the Taliban saying we're here for you,
right?
We're here to protect you.
Yep.
And they're sitting there saying we don't want to take away women's rights, and yet we see that happening every single day. They caught some guy. I don't know if you saw. They caught some guy stealing a car yesterday or something, and literally tarred him, and drug him behind a vehicle yesterday. And I'm going, geez. But it is you either live by love or you live by fear, and right now it is all fear over there. There is no reason. And if you did anything with the American people, or helped in any way, because we were such a big part of their everything, their politics, their economy for the last 20 years, we befriended them. And you asked our servicemen and women about the Afghan people, and they're lovely, and they wanted to do everything they could to help them.
Of course.
And now they're afraid for their lives because they're going to find out, hey, you did something with this serviceman, or you helped this. Blah, 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 blah. Either you're a friend or you're a foe.
Look, you and I are too young as a feeling of Vietnam, right?
Yeah.
The thing that I think is interesting that I've been watching, I'm not politically astute.
I try to think morally what we should do.
Well, but we're stuck.
Because
right? That's the thing. I'm trying to... People are hammering on President Biden. Fine. Both sides hammering President Biden. But I try to think about it more from a social, psychological standpoint, because I don't understand the political ramifications.
Yeah.
But one of his statements where he's like, look, I'm the 5th president.
Yeah.
Two Republicans.
He's the 4th. He doesn't want to stand on the 5th, yeah.
So each presidency, there's jockeying, there's different parameters, there's, we're going to bring the troops back, we can't bring the troops back. And as time is weaving, things are changing, right? Mm-hmm. We started off because we don't want another 9/11. That is the reason. Then it gets a little bit bigger and it gets a little bit broader and it's different. And to your point, it's all right and it's all wrong. It's just it's over time. And President Biden made the statement, basically, we went in for this reason. I'm not going to be the one that passes it on to the next. I'm pulling it out.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was a complete shit show.
Yeah.
But you kind of want to think that at any time that we would have pulled out, it would have been a complete shit show.
Yeah.
It's just that he decided to go for it.
Yeah.
And do it. And so you get to this point. It's again, I bring it back. It's like the marriage. It's like the relationship that's ebbed and flowed, and there's all kinds of problems. And the question is, do we keep rolling or do we cut bait? And if we cut bait, we know there's going to be casualties. So the alternative is not to cut bait, right? To just to keep going, which is an alternative. And this is the part where, God, I would never want to be president. I never want to be Joint Chiefs of Staff, because you either have to make a call and make this dramatic shift, or it's like the national debt. You just keep rolling. Mm-hmm. Yes, people are losing their lives, but you keep rolling, and that's probably the path of least resistance.
Yeah.
And
I'm all about protecting our country first. I get that. I understand that, but we have to protect other people as well. And it would be nice if some of our allies would help out here, because we're taking the bone for this, and it's unfortunate. From a humanity standpoint, it's heart-wrenching to watch. I hate to see it. But yeah, it's from a moralistic standpoint, we should be helping in some form or fashion.
Well, haven't we been?
Well, we have been. And the other thing is, and I think people are pissed off at the Afghan military. They're like, okay, you had 20 years to get this right. What's wrong with you? Why in the hell did the president split? Like that's like going down with the boat. Where the hell are you at? You're the president of these people, and you left in the middle of the night. I'm like, okay, could you imagine if that happened here?
Well, they're
Could you imagine if, let's turn the tables. Say we had the Afghan military protecting our country from civil war and from everything from Canada and from Mexico and from all of our people that we consider allies. And all of a sudden they split, and we're hiding in our basements, and we're freaking out, and they're shooting out in the streets on 119, and you're freaking out. Just imagine what that would feel like, and to know that, okay, what am I doing here? And for the most part, you talk to those people, they want to live there. They love it there. It's their country. It's heart wrenching. It's hard to see. But I don't think that $1 trillion, and I know we've gotten more for our money. Absolutely. Are the Taliban now using our rifles that we gave to the Afghan military to use against that for insurgents and everything? I would have liked to seen a little bit more of a battle, because I think that if your country's worth fighting for, death is certainly a big part of that. And I mean, that's one thing that I can say about this country is we have fought for this country ever since it became a country, and we'll do whatever it takes to protect it.
Yeah.
And you don't mess with the United States of America. Now, Afghan's a little different, but it's a different part of the world. So anyway, all right, great stuff. Get the K-Cast Radio app.
Some deep shit. Sorry.
No, well, I mean, it's huge news. It's huge news.
This was Dirt Road, man.
No,
this was two dudes.
It's two dudes talking real life stuff.
This was Kurre and Klapow.
Yeah. Get the K-Cast Radio app. The K-Cast Radio app. You can hear us from 6 to 9 every Monday through Friday morning. And then we do Facebook Live from 7:30 to 9 or whatever it is. But feel free to get the K-Cast Radio app. We greatly appreciate it. We got classic rock to the bone all day long.